Welcome to Recalibrate. I am Himanshu Jain. For many of us, doing fine just isn't enough. On this show, we talk to those who shifted from stable jobs to building real estate, businesses, and true legacies. If you are ready to pivot and own your future, let's recalibrate. Today on Recalibrate, we are joined by Subir Singh, the founder of Zero Gravity Magic. Long before entering the corporate world, he was already breaking boundaries, earning his private pilot license at just 17 and a half years old. When family reluctance and changes in government policies blocked his aviation career, Subir didn't fold. He pivoted. He took a job as a cadet in Merchant Navy to self-fund his journey to US, eventually spending 25 years as an IT leader at companies like Microsoft, American Express, and Capital One. In 2014, he made his passive investment in a daycare. Today, his group oversees a portfolio of nearly 50 daycares and has expanded into strategic real estate play with urban air trampoline parks. He's here to talk about the fallacies of success, the power of believing in partners, and why he has traded the safety net of Fortune 200 for organic growth of entrepreneurship. Subir, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, Himanshu. How are you doing?
Good, good. I know your journey has been very inspiring and it's very unconventional in a lot of different ways. And I think that's the part I want to highlight today. So you arrived in US in 1995 with a passion for the aerospace sciences. And you spent around 25 years leading IT product development for companies like Microsoft. So walk us through the transition in terms of how did it go through and how did it shape you in terms of who you are today?
Yeah, I think initially, like you mentioned, aviation was a big component of my life. I came with the desire to still continue aviation in the United States. Unfortunately, being on F1/H1 status, getting there is really difficult. Airlines, pilot jobs are highly coveted, very elite, and not in the most countries will not permit outside foreigners to kind of join the club. So it was great. I started with aerotech management and then pivoted over to technology because tech was big in 1995. Yes. I knew it would be difficult for me to be able to feed my family if I wasn't in that field. And right. It was exciting at that time. And the best part about it was coming back from a business commerce background in India, I could shift from that field to getting into computer science, which is complete impossibility.
Even which is a big shift coming from the commerce background and going into sciences. That's a very big shift.
Yeah.
So that's what unconventional to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I was doing this undergrad. So I had the tech kind of background with aircrafts and aviation. Coming in from an education perspective, I had to go back and learn everything on the computer science side while doing my BS in aerotech management. And it was a great journey, right? Everything was bubbling, everything was booming at that time. So absolutely great. So getting into, once we got out of school, I got a job at Microsoft in one of their fully acquired companies, Microsoft TV. Okay. And I worked there for a few years. And then again, next few years through American Express, Philip Morris. And then finally, as 9/11 came around, all the jobs dried up in Arizona, in the Southwest, and I moved east to Virginia and joined Capital One.
Okay, and that's where you are right now, right?
Yeah, I've been here for almost 25 years. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little more about in terms of you invested as a passive investor in 2014 in a daycare. Talk to us in terms of what triggered that and how your journey has been from there on.
Yeah. So everybody has this in the back of their head. I want to have a business. I want to do something different. I want to change the world. And so I had a very close friend. At the time, I only knew for a few years. But now, of course, he's my business partner. And he was trying to get into the business. And of course, as you ramp up he wanted to get into the daycare business. It made perfect sense. It's a recession-proof business. It's if you are a couple that has a kid, and if the economy is booming, then you'll send your kid to daycare just to socialize, to learn, which is not something parents do. That's a key component when your child is young. And if it's doing badly, then the parents have to send them to the daycare because both parents are working, right? It's a pretty recession-proof business. And so the idea felt good. I liked my friend very much, and I decided to take a chance on him because he was looking for investors.
Okay.
And that was it. It had nothing to do with some grand scheme. It was purely
Okay.
taking chance on a friend and investing that money.
Okay. Great. So you took a chance with a friend of yours, and then it worked out for you. And then, so talk us in terms of you have scaled it up, right? I remember when I was talking to you, you mentioned that you were able to scale it up to 4 or 5 daycares in one city itself, and that was more with the focus of economies of scale.
Right.
And after that, I think your partner was able to find more partners, and then it became like a group of partners for you where you got into construction of daycare and you started doing a lot of ground up daycare, right? I believe you have around 50 daycares now. So, can you share with us your journey there? And then also, I would like to hear from you in terms of if you can talk at a high level. What happens when you are building a daycare from ground up? Once you have identified the land from there on, what are the different stages that you go through? And what are some of the challenges that one can expect if he's trying to get into this business?
Yeah. So the daycare side, of course, there was generally when you jump into the daycare business, you don't think about land or building. You think about, let me pay the 150 to 200,000 to the franchise. Let me start the business, look at the operations and make some money. Of course, since my partner was dedicated from day one to running the daycare business, he always knew he was going to scale. We did start off with that model where we paid a certain franchise fee. You paid them about 200,000, got the business started. But then he also then came back and said, I want now to look at the land play.
Okay.
Also, it was, I think, twofold. One, of course, land, real estate is always a great play, but he's a civil engineer by profession, by training. And he always has this passion to build. And so that's how that's how he jumped into construction and tried to build these daycares out.
Okay.
Again, that I think we've had about 4 till 2018, and primarily we were mostly in the Texas area. And then I think I'd mentioned to you, there are always going to be economies of scale if you are geographically located closer. And since he had done the smart thing of going to the franchise and taking the entire state of Texas as part of his right of refusal territory, he could relocate anywhere, and he chose Houston. Again, he likes the market there. City's pretty vibrant. Very zoning codes are a little lax in terms of you can build it wherever you want. You don't have to stay to strict restrictions or prescriptions by the government. Less government interference there. So we consolidated in Houston. After that, we've gone from 4 in the Houston area to about 7 right now. So,
Yeah. So talk to us about the ground up daycare in terms of.
So how do you actually go about it?
Yeah.
So ground up, once you've identified the site, which could be, so let's say, I'll talk about this from, let's say purely, you can do it multiple ways and we build it out. So we'll identify the location and we'll do the due diligence to make sure the sites, there's some uniqueness about the site. One of our daycares in Virginia, they don't permit daycares in that county. So the only way you can get another daycare is you buy an existing daycare. So we look for opportunities like that just because we have a little bit buying power for a particular location.
Yes.
And so we look at a site and then we'll go back and make sure all permissions from a county perspective, everything is done. And then the next step, of course, is to get all your permits done. So you get your land, you get your permits done and financing. So we generally always my rule of thumb is if you started a permit process, you better start your loan process because the loan will almost take as much time as the permitting process. So you want to make sure those two run concurrently or simultaneously, because once you get ready with one, then it becomes a race to finish. The minute you borrow money, it's time to market. How soon can I deliver this product or project so that I can start making money on it? And with a ground up construction, you end up with tons of things. So you might we found this recently, there was a undeclared gas line or a terminated gas line on our property. And they didn't market. So when we dug into it and we had gas all over the place, right? So things like that take months or weeks or months to get remediated. So once you have that, make sure once you have your permits in process, you have your loan in process, you start the GC selection process. That takes a little time. Once that's done, you try to run that project efficiently. And of course, this is project management. So you get from there to getting your franchise, will assist you, will provide you guidance to get your daycare set up.
Okay.
Post building construction, the biggest component of building construction is inspections. You've got to make sure everything is done properly. So county, your relationship with the county kind of matters there.
Okay.
And it matters that the work or the quality of work is there. You've thought about everything. You don't want you don't want inspections to repeat, because if you have it,
and the franchise, somebody from the franchise is always involved in all these phases, right?
Absolutely.
They are there to guide you and let you know in terms of what needs to happen next and all that. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because franchisees have a standard. And so you have a brand standards ambassador who's always going to be part of your journey. And they'll coordinate with the construction head within the daycare franchise. They'll construct with the with the project management team to make sure everything is lined up, because you're talking about the building. Post building, you also have branding materials, you have a specific signage, you have daycare licensing. All of those things have to follow your project. So there's a lot of coordination, and good franchises do a good job of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, how much time does all this take to the time when you start and when you are operational in a way?
So this is again where you need to do due diligence. You need to find out which city. So there's always good markets, and you need to find a good government to work with. And this might be counterintuitive, but the better and the more rigid, the stricter the county is, the more I want to work with them, because I agree. They have worked out all the kinks.
Exactly.
And they're very prescriptive. You are nothing worse than having a county that doesn't know. And then you come into saying, oh, I forgot this, can you do this? Oh, I forgot that, can you do that? So you want a very rigid county. However, I'll take that with a grain of salt, or you should take that with a grain of salt, because some counties make it difficult. So you asked me the timeline. In some counties, we have delivered a project in a little bit over 12 months from the time we started thinking about development. And another county, we have taken 7 years.
Wow.
So it just depends, because we had to get through the legal burden and legal challenges of the county. And so you have to understand, this is where due diligence comes in. You have to understand what are the county requirements. And just an anecdote here, for the county that took 7 years to approve the project, we were arguing about bicycle sheds. They wanted a bicycle shed on the property because of the potential that a school teacher or staff might come on a bicycle, and how would they park in the winters. And so we had to find a solution, and that took 6 months. So just frivolous in our view, when you're in the business of, again, I said time to market. So the minute capital is deployed, you're losing money every single day that you don't have. Frivolous for us. But if you knew it better, maybe we would have been planned better. Maybe we would have executed a little bit better. Even if we saved a year, would have been a big difference.
I completely agree with you. Especially I like the fact that you mentioned about working with counties or cities who are strict in terms of, who have very defined parameters in terms of what you need to get done. And that goes, and especially on the real estate side, I do a lot of real estate work, and I've found that working with cities who have these very well defined, it's easy. Yeah, it's a pain in a way, but it makes sure that when it's all done, it's done, right? So you don't run into issues later on. And in a way, it's good because they're making sure that the building is safe for the tenants and building is safe for the people who are going to live there, and which is very important.
Yeah. So I give example in Prince William County, Virginia, the things they care about is anything that you install in the floor, the wall, or on the ceiling. Because they say that if you are part of a complex, a mall, and you have a tenant, if they are not able to control those three forces, you are impacting somebody else. They don't care about if somebody falls in the park and hurts. They do care about it, but that's not much of consideration. They care about, while construction, that those three surfaces are managed. What do they give? And so they guide you through the process very intricately. They'll say, if you are hanging something from the ceiling, you'll have to do a stress analysis, right? That's upfront. If you hang something from, you'll have to do a pull test. If you're using a bolt in the floor or the slab, it has to be certified and torqued to the specification of that. You have to do the analysis. If I know this upfront, I'll go and engage in a civil engineer. I'll
Yes.
engage the right third party inspector, and all of these things take months. So if I
Right.
find this out in the middle of my project, now you add 2 months to my project.
Yeah.
That's again when you again lose focus on your time to market and start bleeding capital. So
Yes. Yes.
absolutely, I always prefer to work with
Mhm.
companies that with counties that have
Yeah.
extremely strong processes. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. This is very good. I think this is helpful to a lot of people who are looking to get into daycare. I think it gives them a good perspective of what to look for, where to look for, and how to go about it. So thanks for sharing that. So tell me, you said you have 50 daycares and you have gone through the COVID period too in this phase, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you must have had challenges at that time. So can you talk to us about the challenges that you ran during that time and that what your learning was?
Yeah, I think so. Again, during COVID, the biggest challenge we had was revenue, right? We couldn't get kids into the daycare. We were fortunate again, thanks to my partner's foresight, that he built around, he looked again, civil engineer, great guy, a great foresight, great intuition. He built the daycares around the hospital district or around the beltway, around the hospital in Houston, the hospital
Okay.
complex. So now suddenly we had a new market that nurses and doctors had to go to work. And so
Yeah.
they would drop the kids off because we were a convenient daycare location for them. So did we make tons of money? No, but we stayed afloat. That was really important for us. We've had to follow the mandatory practices. Being Texas, we had to follow mandatory practices. We want to make sure no one falls ill because if one kid fell ill, then everybody else would be. We'd have to close the daycare out for a few days. So that was one. So COVID was tough on us. But also, again, this is the counterintuitive thing. We leaned in to getting more properties. We leaned in
Okay.
saying, what are our real estate plays right now? Our people are not frequenting this location?
Okay.
And we picked up I think at that time we picked up a mall. So while we were doing somewhere around 2021, 2022, we were looking to get into the family entertainment business. And my partners were looking for a new location. There are certain specifications for a location to run a trampoline park. And they found a mall, and the mall, during discussions, they came back and said the mall owner was like, "Do you want to buy the mall?" And like they were like, let's figure out what the valuation is," and they bought the mall. Again,
Wow.
opportunity.
Wow.
Even though we knew that our daycare business was not making as much money, you still do a real estate play when it makes sense.
Yeah, and this is during the COVID time,
Yeah,
or
21.
just
Yeah,
21.
2020.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So you bought them during that time. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So this is a good segue into my next question. Actually, you just mentioned about urban care, right? That you were looking for a space for. Sorry for that. So talk to you about urban air. Yeah, urban
Okay.
air, and then yeah. So talk to us about the urban air, and in terms of how did this come to you? And I know you are doing a lot of things there now. So talk to us in terms of what's going on there.
Part of the being in the daycare business was also trying to we realized kind of education, daycare, the business, not the greatest in the United States. So we wanted to see how we can lean in. I think initially I wanted to build a school. We had seen
Okay.
these really nice schools in Arizona, and we wanted to kind of model something out of those where it was focused on education. The United States does not do really well on education. So we wanted to elevate that to the next level. There used to be the champion schools in California, basis right now in Arizona. They're all charter schools and doing very well. And we wanted to get into that sort of model, but we just didn't have the cost and infrastructure. We said, okay, that may be a future plan. But what else can we do to enhance the daycare business? And it naturally said, we've already got the education part, let's look at the fun part. And
Right.
Urban Air as a trampoline or family entertainment park was fantastic. It's not only trampoline, Sky Zone and other competitors have trampolines, some have slides, but Urban Air has the best of everything. We have trampolines, zip lines, attractions, slides, everything. We have it all. So it makes it it's an easier decision for parents to say, do I want to go and do slides all day today and spend the same amount of money? Or can I go and do Urban Air? Can I do a zip line and a trampoline and a slide? And so it seemed to be a better model for us. I think even today, it's a much better model. You do have some specialization in slides or rope climbing or climbing walls, but they become like very single focus. You have to love climbing to go to a climbing gym. You have to love only slides if you want to go to a slide gym or a slide park. But when you come to Urban Air, you have a mix of everything.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
when I was researching on urban air, I went and looked at their site, and there was something which caught my eye. There was something they mentioned like flight, a fun flight, something like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that flight thing raised a trigger in my mind. maybe that was a reason that probably you picked it up.
Could
No,
be absolutely, absolutely could
so
be.
back of mind, there was something to do with the air, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think, yeah, absolutely. Our zip line is one of the few indoor zip lines that we have. It's just a host, just a load of fun there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you mentioned that to me that you are now the construction for the franchisor,
Yeah.
and that you're doing a lot of construction work for them. So how did that happen? Or
The Again, so as when we became all, like I mentioned, my business partner met other business partners. They were the few multi-unit franchisees in the system, and so they meet more often. I think individually they'll have a special sessions meetings to discuss strategy. How the people who've already taken the multi-unit step naturally want to grow. The franchisors know that
yeah,
these are my promise, right? These are the people who are going to build my franchise.
right.
And my partner met them, and once they put forces together, became a larger group, and we were doing our own construction. So they liked the quality of our construction. So the franchisor came to us and said, "Would you like to build for us?" And that we just got into the gig of
Okay,
building those out.
okay,
And there are still other people who build for them, but
okay.
we have become like their main pipeline.
Yeah, and it's a big franchise. I'm looking at they had 400 locations or something, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
close,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
400 plus, yeah, 400
yeah,
plus
yeah.
locations, yeah.
Okay, great. So I was, while we were talking, at some point you mentioned about, I was just talking to you about your achievements, and you said one thing which kind of stuck with me was you mentioned that your ability to focus on what's important to you.
Yeah.
That is, you consider as one of your achievements. So I would like to know more on that in terms of when you say that, why it is important to you and what you like to focus on. What are the things that important to you in terms? Yeah.
So I think that was related into what is it that I like to do. Like I think it was more to do with flexibility in life.
Yes.
So I think pretty much 9 to 5 job has very rigid. You get up at a certain time, you come back home at a
Right.
certain time. You try to get some things done in that time. But now that I've noticed that I have flexibility within my life, I work 7 days a week. I don't ever sleep early. I get up early. So,
Okay.
but I'm still trying to get my 6, 7 hours of sleep a night. That's my goal. But it's the flexibility gives you opportunity that
Right.
now there is no Saturday, no Sunday. Everything is fluid, and you can do what you want when you want. And so the focus that I can say right now is one of the things I'm focused on is just getting to better health. As you're getting older, I found that I wasn't having, even though I'd like to, I always found that I wasn't able to keep up with my health. And now I can focus on that aspect of it because I've got such a flexible schedule. My
Right. Right.
health comes one. Focus means like whatever I need to focus on, my flexibility permits me to do everything else around it. So if my
Right.
health is at 11 a.m. every day, 7 days a week, I can structure my work around it. And that flexibility is what I really appreciate
Yeah.
as being part of a self-owned business.
Yeah. The flexibility is key for me. I think that mattered a lot in terms of doing what I want to do, and nobody has to tell me this is what
Yes.
you have to do. Yeah, I call my shots. I do what I want to do, and that's important, right?
That's a double-edged sword, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I can tell you, like I get up in the morning without an alarm,
Yeah.
but there are some days I get up at 4 in the morning in cold sweats, or there's a 3 o'clock morning call saying a fire alarm has gone out somewhere. Yeah, you got to cater to that at that point of time. So I think, but mostly I do believe it's a benefit that the flexibility and the ability to not have to be
Yeah.
beholden to an alarm clock in the morning. I just find it wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And
No.
though I actually get up earlier than I used to during my corporate days, I get up
Yeah.
earlier now. So it's again without an alarm, which is actually I think positive for me at least. That's
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
I'm getting up in the morning to a job or an experience that I'm going to enjoy.
And I think that's why a lot of people are looking for that's everybody might have different definition for freedom, but in terms of financial freedom, and again, it's just it gives you the ability to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, great, great. So another thing I was going through, and this is one thing which I usually ask all my guests is when we do things, we all have our internal mindset. We have our own mindset. We have our own thought process, which kind of helps us to move forward, or it becomes a barrier, it becomes a roadblock for us. So talk to us about any of your internal resistance that you had to overcome, especially when you were looking into investing in a business. And so was there any, or there was none, or yeah?
I think I was fortunate again. I had very experienced partners. I had extremely accomplished partners. And so I think, Gary, we can talk a little bit about partners, right? None of my partners are like the other. Everybody is different, right? I have all flavors of partners. I deal with, we have four in the core group, but then
Okay.
we also have one ancillary partner he's good. He's the accountant of the group. So I learn a lot of things from him. But one of my partners is extremely very rational, very thoughtful, very measured. And then I have another partner who's completely creative, absolutely kind of explodes in thoughts and ideas, just outrageous ideas, right? He's got the outrageous ideas, which helps balance it. And then I have a very kind of rational kind of partner who's very good at operation, very good at sales. So when you sit and have a conversation with the three of them, things become very clear because you have three different viewpoints and then
Yeah.
your own. And then whatever questions you have, it's not the same voice speaking. It's the rational person and the outrageous person and the salesperson. They all come together and you get a kind of a more cohesive, comprehensive picture of what the opportunity looks like. Is there a risk? Always a risk. Is there an unknown? Always unknowns. But that's the nature of it. So I think the unknown was something that scared me in the beginning, or what happens if I borrow all this money and it goes nowhere. But having a partnership actually helped with that, saying, I have these three successful partners who have invested and are successful. Maybe my risk is going to be a little bit lesser. So
Yeah.
I think I would always advise, if you can get into the partnership, that might be the better way to go.
No, I love the fact that you mentioned how you have partners and how they bring different skills to the group. And then together you guys are able to make informed decisions or better decisions. In terms of going back to my question was more on is there any internal resistance or anything that you, mindset wise, if you had to change anything getting into business, has something changed for you or no?
Yeah, nothing. I don't think there's anything changed for me. I expected the long hours. I think if you're a realist about the situation, you know there's going to be sacrifice up front. There might be things you'd have to do that you've never done before. If you're already of that mindset, it's not going to be a huge surprise. You'll find challenges, but then also great opportunities. So yeah, I think again, maybe the longevity, right? I didn't get into the business day one. I already had a job. I had a very soft landing. When I left my corporate job to focus full time on construction and operations for the urban air, I already had a soft landing. I had this 10 years or almost 8 years of listening to all the experiences that my partners had, listening to all the challenges, all of that stuff. And already events occurred COVID, where you had to lean in, put in little bit more capital.
Right.
I was already used to things that might go wrong with the business. And so when I left my day job, I was a little bit more comfortable about it.
Okay. So talk about, when you left your day job and working with Fortune 200 companies and getting into a small business, right? So you mentioned that there's a shift, right? There's an organic shift in terms of how things happen in a small business. Things happen organically, right? It's not. So talk to us in terms of, from your mindset change perspective, how did that happen? Like from being a corporate guy to an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Anything?
I think in the corporate, you're very safe, very controlled environment, very safe world because they won't let you fail.
Yeah.
You have multiple checks and balances.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll say, hey, I want to buy this, and it'll go through a purchasing process. You'll say, I want to spend this, and they'll go through some other process. I need to bring new technology, it'll go through evaluation process. Not so in the small business world. We jumped into urban air. Daycare construction is a challenge. Urban air is 4x the complexity of that. Now, because in a daycare, you have a building. It's generally a single level. You have rooms, you have play areas, you have kids. If I asked you to run a daycare, you'd do well, because you could probably say, you know what, for a daycare, I need to make sure the kids are safe, the kids have food, the kids have some entertainment activity. It's something that you've done as a father or a parent, right? Not so in the urban air business. Has tons of things. You have to look after safety. You have to look after so many other aspects of the business that it's challenging. It's four daycares rolled into one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So that, but what happens is safety is not there. And like I said, in the daycare business, we had 10, 12 years of experience. In the family entertainment business, zero experience. So the challenges I explained that I was talking about, having worked with a good county, all of those things, I hit every rung as I fell down that ladder because everything was delayed, everything was late because we didn't really know. We were getting
Yeah.
into the process. So I think from a construction perspective, from a daycare, from an urban perspective, that we didn't have the safety net that we had in a corporate environment. And so we had to find things ourselves, discover things ourselves, research things ourselves. And so that's the kind of, and again, time
Yeah.
to market, right? You want
Yeah.
that project to be delivered as quickly as possible. So for me, losing time, we lost 6 months on the first project. And that kind of really hurt
Yeah.
in every way,
Yeah.
from an ego perspective, from a pride perspective,
Yeah.
from a money perspective.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree with what you're saying. You have checks and balances. There are people who are helping you in the corporate world, but when it comes to a small business or an entrepreneur, you're basically on your own, or just a group of people who are partnering and doing this. So, no,
but I'll make one
very
point.
well said. Yeah.
If you're a diligent employee, if you're a
Hmm.
diligent person, my first year experience with a tough county, now I've become an expert in that process. So
Hmm.
I have figured out if by doing my due diligence, by being diligent, I know what my failure points are and how to address them way before they happen.
Right.
So
Right.
that is the one thing you will learn. So it's a matter of one or two experiences. And after that, if you're truly diligent and you're truly interested in running a business and scaling a business, you will be able to build repeatability into the process and build really efficient systems. So you shouldn't be scared. Everybody's going to fail.
Yeah.
Bezos, even when they asked him when Amazon was at its height, he said, "No,
Hmm.
we're going to fail. One day we will no
Yeah.
longer exist, and that's
Hmm.
fine." So you don't be scared of failure. You have to move forward. You will fail. You will lose money, but if you keep the pace and the fortitude, you're going to do well.
That's very well said. Very well said. Yeah, you got to keep persistently doing it. You got to maintain that.
Yeah.
That's the only way to move forward. Great, great. So I'm going back to you mentioned about your partners. So I think one question that comes to my mind is when you are looking for a partner, right? What is one quality that matters a lot that's critical for you that you should have in a partner? Is there anything that you can share with us on that? Because you have done very well in finding partners and working with the partners. So I'm curious to know what one quality that you would look for in a partner.
So ego, right? You don't want a partner with
Mm-hmm.
ego or pretense because that will destroy you. Because then they are going to do it for appearances
Okay.
and not do it for the job. You'll find successful people are very comfortable with themselves. There's no
Mm-hmm.
ego. Bill Gates, Bill Gates became a billionaire in 1986. That was when he became a billionaire. In 1992, he was still flying commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like just absolutely crazy that today somebody who's worth 100 million will not fly commercial. They'll find their own. So I'm saying Bill Gates did that even then. So they're comfortable within their own skin, but more importantly, they're not egotistical because then when they're not egotistical, don't have pretenses, they are not going to do something which just for their reputation. The reputation is important, but they won't
Yeah.
do it just for their ego.
For
They
the
won't do it
ego.
just for the ego. They'll not lose money or will not put the business at jeopardy or at risk just for their ego. That's one quality I definitely think is invaluable, especially in my partners.
Okay. Okay. Great. So now I think we're towards the end of our section of the podcast. And typically in this section, I try to focus on a couple of things. And one is the guiding principle, and then second is more so on wealth building, generational wealth, and all that. So my first question to you on that is going to be: is there any guiding principle or any book that has played an important role in your life?
Yeah.
And so, whatever you want to share with us on that.
Yeah. So I think very simply, I went to Catholic school. And so from day one, I think the golden rule was always socialize, do unto
Okay.
others as you would have others do unto you. And I stick by that. If I'm good to somebody else, I'm hoping that person will reflect and be good to me. But more importantly, just because I think about it, that this is how I need to be, I'm always respectful of another human being. I always give them the benefit of doubt. I
Okay.
found that it really helps. Just a weird thing when I address people, in the county, could be a staff member, a project manager, or if it's somebody in the franchise, I always do Mr. Jain or I'll do, Mr. Roberts, right? And that just because I would like to be respected also. And that small little gesture, it has paid huge dividends. People call me and have told me and asked me, hey, thank you for that respect, but call me Sean. I need to be this formal. I want to be a friend of yours. I want to work with you. And I think that's also, it's a good transition for me saying, oh, initially this person has taken the effort from becoming a professional contact into a more familiar, more casual relationship, which also builds better working relationship with them. So absolutely, I think and these small little things, I think really have helped me. So I try to practice that as much as I can. So.
Great. Very good advice. I think keeping it social and treating others the way you want to be treated, that's very important. And yeah, I think it helps you build relationship. And I think that's one thing you have done really well, building relationship with other people. Based on all our conversation, that's the sense I get many a times, and all the other stories that we're not talking about here, but yeah, definitely. So now going back to wealth building, talk to me in terms of what these concepts like financial freedom, wealth building, generational wealth means to you. Because you have a unique perspective on it, and I want our listeners to listen to that.
Yeah. No, so I think building for me is, again, I go back to flexibility, right? So I want the wealth, that is biggest wealth. Time is big wealth, the biggest kind of wealth for me.
Yeah.
We are going to lose, as we grow every single day, we're losing a currency that we cannot reclaim. It's gone, it's done. Yeah. So for me, that would be, if I have the ability, and my friend keeps saying this, you can be rich or you can be wealthy. And I want to be wealthy, not rich. Yeah. Because I think being wealthy, you can live a much more meaningful life. You can live a much more healthier life, right? Wealth is not just cash, right? Wealth is your personal health. Your wealth is you're getting up in the morning and just being happy. That's wealthy, right? So there are multiple ways of looking at wealth. Money will be incidental. So if you're happy, again, and this might be all kind of circular, if you're happy, healthy, can you work your entire life? For me, my goal in life is to never stop working. Just roll over one day and be gone. But I want to have worked the previous day. And work is, again, loosely, it doesn't have to be like running 7 hours a day or something like that. Work is primarily that I was engaged, I was healthy, do everything on my own terms. If you do that and you will end up with a longer work life. That means you'll already end up with a longer career or salary or riches, or how you want to calculate that anyway. But more importantly, if you're wealthy and you can build out those riches for a longer duration. And so for me, it's all circular. And money will come. Money will come. No, money is incidental. Money is very incidental. Yeah. And I keep challenging my friends with this one question. I'm like, if you're 45 years of age, if I give you $20 million, what's going to change in your lifestyle? If I give you $50 million, what's going to change in your lifestyle? Some of them will really disappoint you because they don't even have the creativity to spend $20 million. They don't even have the creativity. Just last night, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's 45. And I asked him, what will you do with the money? And he said, oh, I want to play tennis. I want to play this. I want to play that. I'm like, no. Will anything change in lifestyle? And he couldn't tell me one thing that would change in his lifestyle. So what are you chasing money for? Yeah. If you work harder as you grow older, you'll have lesser and lesser vacations. I think I told you this about my business partner. Every quarter, he takes the time out to take his family out for a good vacation. So they'll go to different countries, different places. Yeah. And the kids, and his rationale is very simple. My kids are at home right now. They're in college, high school. One's just graduated med school or going to go to med school. I have limited time with them. Let me spend it the best way I can. So I think that's really important. Yeah. And to finish the thought, a person should look at what their lifestyle is today and what they will change if they have money. And 9 out of 10 times, if you like your tandoori chicken and your biryani or chicken biryani, that's what you're going to eat. You're not going to go back and start eating caviar and having champagne or crystal. Well said. It's nothing is going to change for you. Nothing is going to change. Because it's not you. It's not who you are. Yeah, you are what you. Yeah, exactly. So you figure out what your needs are in life, and figure out one more. Too many of these things, but have a small footprint in life is my way of approaching it. If you have a small footprint in life, you'll be able to manage your life much better. You can have a big house, but means big management. You can have 10 cars, but maybe don't. Even if you ever take them for a car wash, you get people. It's just a burden. So figure
Yeah.
out what your breadth and your length is and work within that. And then everything else will follow well.
Okay. Good conversation and good thoughts there. So we covered your journey. We covered your journey from the cockpits in terms of flying and into the corporate world and now in the world of the entrepreneurship. So looking back at all that, if there is one thing that our listeners or investors who are listening to you, anything that you would, an actionable item that you would like to share with them so that they could get onto their recalibration in a way. So what would that be?
Yeah, I think just the extension of what we just spoke about.
Take a chance.
Take a chance, take a risk. Life is too short. You will never regret not making more money, but you'll always regret not having taken that opportunity. Absolutely. I think take a chance, take a risk. Again, if your footprint is small, you can take that chance, right? You don't have 10 houses to pay for or a
Yeah.
huge mortgage payment. If you drive that old Honda Accord, still good, right? It's a car, point A to point B. I don't even drive. I have a Tesla. I don't even drive my car anymore, right? I don't even know how to. I'm like autopilot, and it goes where it needs to go. It's not a consideration for me anymore. 5, 10 years ago, it would be like, I want the next BMW. I want the next Rolls Royce, whatever it might be. No more, nothing. Now it's just a piece. The game is more important. The game is what I'm chasing right now, right? I don't want to be looking at these trivial things. And then people will realize that, but yeah, take the chance, take the risk, and see what's out there. You only live once, and try to minimize the number of regrets at your end of life. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a great conversation. Thank you, Subir, for being on the podcast. I really loved a lot of things that you shared with us, and I'm sure my audiences here would too. So thank you. Thanks for joining the podcast. It was really good having a chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Himanshu.
Yes,
Great
take
talking to
care.
you.
Take it. Thank you for joining us on Recalibrate. Remember, don't just follow the herd. Dig deep and define what success means to you. I'm sure the episode today must have given you a lot of different takes on the I call the unconventional recalibration journey of Subir. And I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want more of these, I would request please subscribe and please share this podcast with your friends and families and other people who this might be of value. Once again, thanks for joining, and let's recalibrate. Thanks for listening to Recalibrate. If you found value today, please subscribe and share this with someone who's tired of just doing fine. Check the show notes for guest details, and until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep inspiring. I'm Himanshu Jain, signing off. Let's recalibrate.